very clear and apparent. The owners let it be known. We're not doing that $10.5 million cap thing y'all was talking about. The players, you know, they was doing this whole, we're on one front. Are y'all crazy? This is crazy. There seems to be a real divide amongst the players here. So the delegation was made up of, in the grand scheme of things, nobody that has a following or even a big name, just people you would pass on in the street and not even recognize. Smart. Yeah. So that's what it is, man.
Ownership just drew a hard line, and it wasn't subtle. The league is not signing off on a $10.5 million cap structure. They're not touching a 30% revenue share framework. And now on top of that, the bigger problem is surfacing. The players aren't even fully locked in with each other on what comes next.
Any offer y'all sent with those last two offers, y'all shouldn't have brought it in this meeting. We're not doing a $10.5 million salary cap. We're not doing a 30% revenue sharing. You wasted your time getting on a plane if that's what you showed up.
Some are ready to walk, some are ready to sign. Some are looking at the risk and thinking about checks, careers, and how long a standoff can realistically last. That's the tension you get when negotiations stop being a slogan and start being a real-life pressure test. The latest flashpoint happened in New York City, where the WNBA Players Association met directly with league owners for a closed-door session that lasted roughly 3 hours.
Alexa Philippou, the WNBA and WNBPA met in New York City for about 3 hours today. The player delegation included Nneka Ogwumike, Alicia Clark, Brianna Turner, and Stephanie Dolson. Nafisa Collier and Kelsey Plum had travel issues and didn't make it to New York. Ogwumike and company declined to comment on the PA's way out.
This was the face-to-face the players had been pushing for, the meeting they believed would change the leverage. The player group included key names such as Nneka Ogwumike, Kelsey Plum, and Brianna Stewart, among others. The message going in was clear. They wanted to deal with ownership, not just league leadership. They wanted Adam Silver involved. They wanted a shortcut to decision makers, and instead, they ran into a wall. Reports indicate the owners dismissed the central demands immediately, shutting down the proposed cap figure and rejecting the revenue share percentage without entertaining it as a starting point.
You know, we're all agreed and we're all in for everything. We're on the same page. No, you're not. No, you're not. No, you're not. And now it's coming out that the owners they stood their ground in this meeting, and the players are now.
In other words, the players came in expecting movement, and ownership responded with a firm refusal. Now the situation turns messy because what the public has seen is unity, and what's starting to leak is disagreement. The WNBPA has projected one direction for months, but behind closed doors, there are signs of real division within the executive committee about whether a strike is worth the cost or whether taking a deal now is the safer play. And once that split becomes real, the leverage changes fast. The most revealing part isn't the disagreement among players at the margins. It's the split forming at the very top of the union. Inside leadership, there are two competing visions of what this moment is supposed to be. One side believes the league is vulnerable right now and that the players finally have a chance to reshape the revenue-sharing structure in a way that changes the WNBA permanently. No more incremental gains, no more settling, push harder. The other side sees it differently. They believe the players have already moved the needle in a major way, that the owners are closer to the middle than the headlines suggest, and that the fastest path to real progress is finishing the deal while leverage still exists. Put plainly, some want to strike, some want to sign, and ownership can smell that tension. From a strategy standpoint, that's a problem. The union spent months building leverage. They authorized the possibility of a work stoppage. They went public. They framed their demands as non-negotiable. They insisted on a direct sit-down with ownership, believing that getting in the room with the people who control the money would change everything. But when the owners didn't flinch, the power dynamic shifted. And when internal debates start leaking into the media right after a meeting like that, it rarely happens by accident.
Said y'all all was on the same page. Y'all said that, oh, we got this under control. Oh, what? We will not effing move. In the words of Natasha Clark, we will not effing move. We will not effing move. Well, your ass about to get moved over. Another group says that though there are still some matters to be negotiated, the players have already gained significant ground. And
once a negotiating position starts to weaken, information starts moving, sources start talking. The public unity begins to look like a performance instead of a reality. Even the body language tells a story. Nneka Ogwumike leaving that meeting and choosing not to comment reads like a signal. When talks are going well, leaders rush to shape the narrative. When talks go sideways, you get silence. And here's where the money complicates everything. What's reportedly on the table includes a structure where top players could reach the $400,000 to $500,000 range annually. For a large portion of the league, that isn't just a raise, that's stability. That's changing a life, paying off debt, investing, taking care of family, and not having to treat every offseason like a financial scramble, which means the debate isn't only about principles, it's about timing, it's about risk, and it's about who can afford to wait. The biggest wedge in this whole standoff is simple. A strike doesn't hit everyone the same. For a lot of players, the real promise of this next deal isn't just a nicer headline number, it's freedom. Freedom from having to fly overseas every winter to make the math work. Freedom from stacking seasons until your body taps out. A legitimate WNBA salary scale changes that. But the union is trying to hold a line with a roster that has wildly different financial realities. Some stars have cushions, some have leverage outside the league. Some are already building alternative paths that would still pay them if the WNBA calendar went dark. Players connected to new ventures, endorsement money, equity deals, or off-season platforms can absorb the hit in a way most of the league simply cannot. Now flip to the middle of the roster, the players who don't have seven-figure endorsements, ownership stakes, or premium outside contracts waiting. For them, a deal that pushes top salaries toward the $400,000 to $500,000 range matters, because it also reshapes the ecosystem beneath it. That's the first time a lot of careers start to feel financially sustainable. So ask the obvious question, are those mid-tier players really going to turn down a payday and choose uncertainty instead? For many of them, the answer is no. And that's the part ownership understands better than anyone. The owners know time is their friend if the players aren't truly unified. Every week without a deal increases pressure inside the locker rooms. You start hearing different opinions. You start seeing different risk tolerances. You start getting side conversations that never make it to social media. They also understand the optics of the alternative leagues. If a work stoppage happens, some players with strong ties to those leagues could be positioned to benefit from the attention shift, even if the broader player pool suffers. That's not a moral judgment. It's just a reality of incentives. And when incentives don't align, solidarity gets harder to maintain. That's why the owners were comfortable drawing a hard line in that New York meeting. They aren't negotiating against one unified opponent. They're negotiating against a coalition with competing priorities. And they're betting the coalition cracks first. The players pushed for that face-to-face because they thought it would change the power dynamic. They believed direct access to ownership would produce flexibility. They believed Adam Silver's presence, or even the symbolism of it, would tilt the room in their favor.
Y'all thought Adam was going to bend the knee and allow the other owners to go into a $700 million hole for y'all? Absolutely not, man. Are y'all crazy? This is crazy. The WNBA and WNBPA met for 3 hours. The players, so Nneka was there, Alicia Clark was there, Brianna Turner was there. Can we please get Brianna Turner off the Indiana Fever? Please get this lady off the Indiana Fever.
They assumed the owners would be more sympathetic than league leadership. Instead, they found out what ownership actually is. They aren't going to take on massive losses to meet demands they view as structurally unacceptable. They aren't going to rewrite their financial model because the other side came in confident. That isn't how these negotiations work. And now the players are dealing with the hardest part. Not the headlines, not the tweets, the internal math. Caitlin Clark basically spelled it out a few weeks ago when she said both sides need to compromise and finish the deal. And the key detail is who that message was really for. It wasn't aimed at ownership, it was aimed at the Players Association because she understands a reality that union leadership can't afford to ignore.
It's clear that some of y'all don't. It's clear. So there seems to be a real divide amongst the players here. And let's be real, am I surprised? No. Not surprised by this. We're not surprised by this. At the end of the day, these players have done everything they can to push the fans away and all of this stuff. And now, you know, you got Nneka Ogwumike saying she has no comment.
The WNBA's leverage has a ceiling. Yes, the league is growing. Yes, the numbers look better. But growth is not the same thing as profitability, and the current surge in attention is being driven by a small group of headline-level stars, not a fully stabilized, league-wide machine. If a season gets wiped out, there is no guarantee that audience momentum simply resumes where it left off. Fans build habits fast, but they also break them fast. That's why pointing to record viewership is persuasive in public, but less persuasive in a negotiation room. The owners aren't arguing that the league isn't trending up. They're looking at the full ledger. Revenue is increasing, but so are expenses. Expansion is on the horizon, but expansion requires significant upfront investment. Media rights talks create optimism, but optimism is not a signed contract. This is the core disconnect. Players are trying to be paid on what the league is expected to become. Owners want compensation tied to what the league is generating right now. And that gap matters because time is about to force a decision. Training camps are close. Front offices need clarity to finalize rosters. Sponsors need to know whether the season is happening. Broadcast partners need schedules they can actually commit to. Every day, without an agreement, doesn't just extend the standoff. It increases internal pressure on the union because more players start doing the simple math. A strong salary for a short season or no check at all while betting a strike will produce a better outcome. For most players, that isn't a complicated equation. And there's another reality union leadership can't message their way around. Authorizing a strike isn't the same as executing one. A work stoppage only holds if the majority actually stays in line. If a meaningful chunk of the league decides they can't afford the gamble and chooses to play, the strike collapses, the union fractures publicly, and the players come out of it with less leverage than they had before the threat was even on the table. Nneka Ogwumike and the rest of union leadership are stuck in the kind of trap that makes labor fights ugly. They went all in on maximum demands. They raised expectations inside the player pool. They signaled that this was the moment to push the league into a new financial era. And they did it publicly, which means walking anything back now comes with a cost. Because ownership isn't moving, so leadership is staring at two bad options. Accept a compromise and look like they overplayed their hand, or escalate into a strike that could split the membership and undo years of progress in one chaotic summer. Ownership understands that pressure point, which is exactly why they held firm in that Monday meeting. At this stage, it doesn't look like they're negotiating terms as much as they're testing resolve. They want the players to pick a lane, take what's available now, or gamble on a stoppage that might not even hold together once real paychecks are at stake. And the most maddening part for the players is that ownership's calculation might be correct. The league has real momentum right now. Caitlin Clark's rookie season pulled in unprecedented attention. Angel Reese and Cameron Brink helped widen the spotlight. The broader rookie wave brought new fans, new media coverage, and a different level of week-to-week interest. Ratings climbed, arenas filled. The product finally started to feel like it had a mainstream runway. That's the moment you build on with a clean, uninterrupted season. A strike would torch that window. It turns the story from basketball to conflict. It shifts the headlines from stars, rivalries, and growth to labor disputes, infighting, and canceled games. It also creates an opening for alternative leagues to sell themselves as the stable, modern future of women's basketball, while the WNBA is stuck arguing over the past. The players believed they were negotiating from strength because the numbers were trending up and the demand felt real. But ownership just delivered the blunt reminder that leverage only matters if you can actually deploy it. And right now, the owners are betting the players won't be willing to sit out an entire season to prove a point. Ownership is betting the union cracks before it ever truly walks out. They believe the mid-tier players will look at the current offer, look at their bank accounts, and decide that stability beats symbolism. And based on how fast the narrative shifted after Monday's meeting, that bet doesn't look reckless. Within hours, the silence spoke louder than any statement. Nneka Ogwumike left without offering so much as a hint of progress. Then the reporting about internal disagreements surfaced almost immediately, the kind of detail that usually stays sealed unless someone wants it out. The players pushed hard for a direct session with ownership, expecting it to change the tone. Instead, it exposed what ownership already suspected. The union's public unity is thinner than it looks. Now the players are facing a decision that can't be postponed much longer. Are you actually willing to lose a season to win a better deal? Are you willing to risk financial security, career timelines, and the league's current momentum for a few more points of revenue share? Because the owners just told you in plain language that they are not caving. They are not restructuring their model around projected future money. They are not taking on massive financial risk because the players feel the league is owed. So the ball is back with the players. Option 1 is to take the deal that's reportedly on the table, a package that would still represent meaningful progress over the current agreement, and lock in the gains while the league is trending upward. Option 2 is to strike, and hope solidarity holds long enough to force ownership back into real concessions. But the strike option has a brutal weakness. It only works if the vast majority of players stay aligned. If even a small percentage decides to play, the leverage collapses.
Stuff maybe, so it probably was a good thing that the weather didn't allow them to get there. But WNBA has horrible representation. Look, probably for the best Fee didn't make it. She's not exactly disciplined in her messaging.
Not because ownership suddenly becomes stronger, but because a fractured union can't execute the one move it's threatening. That's why Monday mattered so much. It was supposed to be the breakthrough, direct access to decision makers, face-to-face negotiations. The moment the power balance shifted, instead ownership didn't move. The internal cracks became public. And now time is doing what ownership wants it to do, tightening the pressure and shrinking the menu of choices. So what happens next depends on one thing: whether the players are willing to absorb real pain together, or whether enough of them decide the safer move is to take the money, take the season, and live to fight for the next step later. It was supposed to be the moment the players seized control. They finally got in the room with ownership. They finally got the face-to-face they demanded. They finally forced the league to stop hiding behind press statements and negotiators and deal with them directly. And what happened? The owners didn't flinch. They didn't soften. They didn't see their side and come back with a breakthrough offer. They shut the door and let the players walk out carrying the same reality they walked in with. Except now everyone can see the union isn't as unified as it's been claiming. That's the part that changes everything. Because once the public learns there are cracks at the top, the strike threat stops sounding like a weapon and starts sounding like a bluff. And once a bluff gets called, you don't get to reset the board. You either follow through or you fold. The owners are betting the players fold. They're betting the mid-tier players take the money. They're betting enough players quietly decide they can't afford to sit, can't afford to gamble a full season, can't afford to sacrifice their careers on a principle they don't fully agree on. And if that happens, even if it's only a portion of the league, the entire strategy collapses. Because a strike doesn't fail when the owners win. A strike fails when unity breaks. So now the WNBA Players Association is staring at the hardest decision in modern women's basketball history. Take a deal that improves salaries and raises the floor for thousands of future players, or burn the season trying to force a bigger share of the future, with no guarantee the future arrives the way everyone is projecting. And make no mistake, the clock is loud. Training camps are approaching, schedules have to be locked. Sponsors and broadcasters need certainty. The longer this drags, the more pressure shifts back onto the players. Not because their cause is wrong, but because their leverage has an expiration date. Momentum is not permanent. And the league's momentum is built on stars, storylines, and a wave of attention that can disappear as fast as it arrived. A canceled season turns a growth era into a cautionary tale. It hands the narrative to the people waiting to call the players selfish and the league unstable. It gives every casual fan a reason to walk away. So the decision is simple, even if it's painful. Do you take the win in front of you and keep building? Or do you risk everything for a bigger win you might never get? Either way, the next move decides the future of this league, not in theory, in real life. And if you want the real-time updates, the behind-the-scenes moves, and the next leak before it hits the timeline, stay locked in with Courtside Leaks. We've got every angle covered, every leak, every backstage twist, every moment they won't show you. Hit like, subscribe, drop a comment, and share this video. Stay locked in with Courtside Leaks, your home for the truth behind the WNBA headlines.